In the UK, we actually don't have any of these birds that are on the cover here. So we've got the blue jay, which many of you will probably have seen. I think it's one of the more common birds. We have on the cover the northern flicker, a white-crowned sparrow, a Carolina wren, a northern cardinal, and a western. I never know how to say this name. I should look it up. But we'll go with tanager or tanager. And in the UK, we don't have any of these, but we do have a Eurasian jay. And we do have a couple of types of sparrow, but not this one. Not the white-crowned sparrow. And we have a wren that is similar-ish, but we do not have the Carolina wren. So I will get out 25 of the cards and we'll have a look and hopefully learn something. Learn a little something about birds. I lied. First, we'll read the back of the box, which says, learn to identify your backyard birds with the help of leading ornithologist, someone who studies birds, David Sibley. Inside, you'll find one deck of 50 common Western and Eastern North American birds, and one deck of 50 common birds found across North America. Each card features vibrant illustrations and captions about behavior and voice description for easy identification. So on each card, we'll learn a little bit about the bird's behavior, and it will tell us what they sound like. I will not be trying to imitate the birds, of course. I don't want to do that to your ears. So this here is an adult male barn swallow. Written and illustrated by David Sibley. Cover design by Jan Durovjanek. Copyright 2012 by Potter Style. Now let's take a look at 25 of the cards. So here is the deck that we'll be looking at. Just give you a quick flip through. Not of all of them, but lots of different birds here to learn about. And we'll start with what I think is probably one of the more common sights, or at least more commonly known to people than some other birds. A mute swan. Let's put these out of sight so we can focus. So as you saw while I was moving the cards, each card has typically on one side 2 images of the bird, and that might be a more juvenile version of the bird and an adult version of the bird illustrations, or I believe it could also be a female, depicted female version of the bird, or a depicted male version. On this card, our mute swan card, we have, this says, first fall, August to November, mostly white by November. As you can see here, It's a sort of whitish grey, that well-known, famously long neck. And then you can see on the head, the beak is not quite that vivid orange that we associate with swans. But on the adult, by the time it reaches adulthood, it has this. It says orange bill unique. I was calling it a beak. A bill. And you can see that clear white color is coming through a lot more. It's no longer this sort of grayish white. It's white and it's got that orange there. And then each card also has on the other side the English name for the bird, mute swan. The what I assume is the Latin name, which I won't read for every bird because I'll just butcher it. And then on the left hand side in the top, in the top right hand side, we have the bird length, which I think is probably height. And for the mute swan, it's 60 inches. We have what I believe is wingspan, and that says 75 inches for the mute swan. And the weight, 22 pounds, and that will be for the adult, most likely. I should also say, not every male and female bird differ in appearance. So where we have a younger version of the bird and an older version, it might be that the bird, such as this bird, our mute swan, looks the same in adulthood when it's both female and male. So let's read a little bit about the mute swan. It says, habitat. Uncommon, but conspicuous on ponds and bays around human habitation. Oh, there you go, I said that it was probably a more common sight. But territorial pairs defend small ponds, usually found in pairs or small groups, often accepting handouts in city parks. Builds large nest mound along pond edge in marshy vegetation. Feeds on aquatic plants. Description: unmistakable. Larger than any goose, long-necked and all white. Differs from other swans in orange bill with black knob at base. More curved neck. Here we can look at that. See this? You can see the KNOB, the black knob there. More curved neck and longer tail. Voice. Hissing and, I don't know how to say this word, boogling sounds. I know that swans often have a bad reputation, along with geese. Just be very careful that you don't disturb their nests, and you should be fine. And that is the mute swan as a more juvenile swan there at the top, and the adult. You can see that curved neck, white, the orange bill. And now you know that it's not just called a swan, it's called a mute swan. But of course they are not mute. They hiss and make boogling sounds. The next bird we'll take a look at is the common grackle. And I'm chuckling because if you are a fan of the TV show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, then you might have a funny memory associated with the grackle. There was, I believe, a scene in one of the episodes, maybe two, in which it was implied that grackles are worthy of being insulted, and they themselves became an insult. But let's learn a little bit about them, and you can decide for yourself. So, we have on the top of one side of the card the adult female, and underneath her we have the adult male, and you can see there's slight differences. So for the adult female, they are blackish overall with limited iridescence. Now iridescence, I believe, is when if you look at something, let's say a bird, and it's moving, and in the light it appears to be different colors as it moves. It might be purple with one movement and blue with the next and green with another, and that, I believe, is what it means to be iridescent. I don't have the best vocabulary in the world, but so the female is blackish overall with limited iridescence. She has I think this might be the same for both birds. The bill doesn't look that different in the pictures, but it says heavy bill and pale iris. And then the main difference for the male seems to be its multicolored iridescence. And you can see as well, I don't know if it's just the way the illustrations have been done, but the male on sort of their breast and neck and their head appears to be a nice shade of blue. Not that the female isn't, but hers looks to be closer to blackish blue. And then you can see some of those colors coming through on the illustration of the male there. I hope. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see the difference. The female has the sort of browner body and browner wing, and the male has this some purple, blue, green, along with brown. Let's zoom back out a little bit. And then if we flip over, it says common grackle, length, which again I think is height, 12.5 inches, wingspan, 17 inches, and weight, 4 ounces, which is quite a big difference. There's quite a big difference between this and our swan, our mute swan, which I think was it 22 pounds? The grackle is only 4 ounces. And I didn't mention this for the swan, but on the bottom right we have the map of North America. And you can see the distribution of the birds. And it looks like the common grackle is quite a lot more common, as its name would suggest, than the mute swan. The habitat, it says, common and widespread. Nests in trees, especially dense evergreens, such as junipers. Forages for seeds and invertebrates on the ground in open areas near trees or within open woods. And its description: larger and heavier than blackbirds, with a longer, thicker bill, much larger tail, with distinctive keel shape. K-E-E for echo, L. And we can see, I think this is the keel shape. Could be mistaken. So, The grackle. I have seen one, I believe, in the US, but I didn't realize it at the time, and only in looking back at my pictures did I say, wait a moment, is that a grackle? So next time I go, if I'm lucky enough to go again, I will be very conscious of trying to spot grackles, of seeing grackles, and appreciate them a little bit more. Very widespread. Oh, and the voice. It says, song, an unmusical, harsh ksh. So K-H, K-H, ksh, kshi. Or K-R, K-H-R, hyphen R-E-E-Z-Z-H. Try saying that out loud now. Creets. I don't think I'm getting that quite right. But that's the common grackle. The next bird is the purple martin. M-A-R-T-I-N for November. We have on the illustrations page the adult female and the adult male. And you can see a major difference in shade of the bluish black. So with the female on top of the head and on the upper body, so the back and the wing, we have a lighter blue, and then the wing sort of goes into this blackish brown, and the underbelly of the female going all the way down to the other part of its tail is a whitish grey from the looks of it, or a whitish brown, and almost patterned. And you can see that goes as well onto their neck and the front of their face, around their bill. And then with the male, you can see it's a much deeper shade of blue. The writing says all bluish black. And that applies to its underbelly too. And the entirety of its head and neck. So there's no white, grey, brown there. It's just this deep bluish black and blackish brown on the wing and tail. So I don't know where purple in its name comes from, but often with animal names, they aren't the colour that's in the name. But it is called a purple martin. It's 8 inches in length with a wingspan of 18 inches. 18. So that's quite big compared to its size. And its weight is typically 2 ounces. The habitat description says that this is a common bird and that it nests almost exclusively in man-made martin houses placed in open areas near water, forages over any open habitat. And so if you're ever able, it would be lovely if you put up a martin house for the purple martin and other martins, I assume. And its description: our largest swallow, relatively long-winged and long-headed. Adult male is bluish black, and can be confused with the European starling. Now we do get those where I live. Very common. All plumages blackish above, with dark head and breast, very dark unknowing coverts, and streaked or speckled belly. I wonder then if the adult male does have a speckled belly like the adult female, but we just can't view it on this illustration. That was a little unclear, I'm not sure. Voice. Its song is a low, rich, liquid gurgling. Its calls are melodious. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Rich, low whistles. Its most common call is a rich descending sheer. I'm definitely saying that wrong. It's spelled like the singer but with an extra R for Romeo. CHER for Romeo. Chair, share. A rich descending share. And that is the purple martin, the largest of your swallows in eastern North America. Next we have the eastern bluebird. A funny, well, silly anecdote about the bluebird. We don't have them here in the UK. And for a long time I thought bluebirds were a mythical bird that people just sang about in song, referring to any bluebird as a bluebird. But no, they exist as their own bird, and this is them. So we have what David Sibley has called a drab adult female, and they're very pretty. They're not drab at all. They are just not as blue as the male eastern bluebird. But here is the description. So the eastern bluebird has a short bill, as you can see here. It has an orange breast and orange sides of the neck. And you can see the female has a much less vivid orange than the male. It has a white belly, and it looks like on the female there's some white below the head as well, below the bill. It has orange flanks, and on the male, the description of the male, it says bright rufous below, which I think just refers to how much more vivid this orange is on the torso and belly. And you can see, like I said, how intensely blue the male is. Whereas the female, although it does look like both have a grey-black part of their tail, like one part is blue and one part is grey-black. That could just be the illustration there, but... And on the female, so the top of the head and the back with the wing is mostly grayish, but there is some lighter blue creeping in, and it goes down the tail there. And then if we turn over, we can see they're quite small, length 7 inches, wingspan 13 inches, so that's almost double their body height, which is cool. Weight, they are very light, 1.1 ounce. The habitat, it says, uncommon in mixture of open fields and trees, such as orchards, golf courses, and parks. Nests in boxes or tree cavities. Feeds on insects and fruit gleaned from the ground or vegetation. The description: a rather small and stocky thrush. No other eastern bird has bright blue wings and tail with an orange breast. And the voice: the eastern bluebird's song consists of pleasing soft whistles. Chitty, whew, chitty, whew, wee, 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 do. This just sounds like I'm saying infantile terms, but its call is a soft, husky Jeeweewee, Jeew, Wiwi, and a short, dry chatter. So that is the eastern bluebird. Next, we have the eastern kingbird. The juvenile is at the top of the illustration page, and the adult is at the bottom. I don't think in the UK we have a bird called a kingbird. So the juvenile and the adult look quite similar, actually. It looks like both have grey sides on the breast of the bird. They both have a white belly and throat, and then it looks like both have these grey sides on their breasts. It also looks like the adult's is bigger, and both have a white tip on their tail at the very end of their tail, which otherwise looks to be a dark grey or black colour. But the adult's white tip does look more pronounced, more prominent. Both also have a dark cap, but the juveniles, I don't know how well it comes across on camera, but the juveniles looks less dark. And then I think on camera you can see that the adult's body, their back, and possibly their wing, the colours are smooth, fully formed. I don't know how else to say that. But on the juvenile, it looks like there are small patches of brown coming through on their back, which aren't on the adults. But otherwise, they are very similar in their colouring. They both have this dark cap, as I said, deeper shade of black on the adult. They do both have this bluish grey back. It's just smoother on the adult. They have the tail with the white tip. Other than that, there aren't too many differences. If we turn over, it says Eastern Kingbird. Length or height 8.5 inches. Wingspan 15 inches. Just like double. Weight 1.4 ounces. So relatively small. Habitat. Common in semi-open habitats with mix of grassy fields and trees, such as orchards, often near water. Perches on any prominent open perch from which to watch for passing insects. I don't think I've seen an eastern kingbird yet. Description. Note: dark grey black, no, dark grey back, white underparts, and dark white tipped tail. I do feel like these illustrations, the words with them, could be a little more descriptive. And then the writing side could also have a little more, but they're still good. They're still good to learn from, especially for beginners. Of the Eastern Kingbird's voice, it says, Song. A series of high, sharp electric notes ending with a rasping buzz. Kidik, kidik, kidik. Pika, pika, pika. Kisir. I don't know what I'm saying, but there you go. Its common call is a descending kisir. K, Z, E for Echo, E, E, R for Romeo. And that is the Eastern Kingbird. Our next bird is the tufted titmouse. We don't have the tufted titmouse in the UK, but we have other tits. We have the blue tit, the great tit, the coal, C-O-A-L tit, and others. But the tufted titmouse has a special place in my heart because I once helped a friend identify one that she took a picture of. She couldn't find out what it was, and I did a lot of searching and comparing at the time. And so it was one of my earliest introductions to American birds that weren't just other more common birds. So the illustration page, it shows us that we have the grey crest, and here we have the juvenile. This is the juvenile, the younger tufted titmouse, and the adult male. So on both we have this grey crest. Possibly by the time it reaches adulthood it's a little bigger than when it's a juvenile. I'm not sure. And we have this pale area around the eye and this whitish belly. And you can see it's starting to get it has most of the color of the adult male actually. But when they become adults, they get a black forehead area around the bill going up to just before the tuft. And the back it says all grey above, so on the back and the wing and the tail. On camera I think it looks bluish grey. To my eyes it looks more of a greenish grey. But the head looks to be just this bluish grey. And then on both the juvenile and the adult we have the orange flanks, which is the bit under the wings. And then the rest of the bird, like I said, the belly, and then up to the bill is white. And if we turn over, we can see it's bigger, I think, than a couple of the birds that we've just had, but it's very light. So the tufted titmouse, it's 6.5 inches in length, height. Its wingspan is 9.75 inches, typically. Of course, I'm sure it ranges from bird to bird, but on average. And the weight is 0.75 ounces. Habitat, it says common and widespread, immature, deciduous woods. I'm not sure I said that right. Deciduous. feeds on insects and seeds, and its description is larger than chickadees and relatively short-tailed, with a small pointed crest. I think that must be where it gets the tuft part of its name. Pale grey overall with orange flanks. Voice. Its song is a low, clear, whistled pita 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 pita. Usually strongly two-syllabled. The tufted titmouse's call is a series of angry, nasal, rising notes, often preceded by very high, thin notes. T T T, C C, zri zri zri. I know I'm not doing these calls and songs justice, but perhaps from the description alone, you might be able to identify them. And there are actually apps that you can download for free where it lets you record birdsong and it shows you its best guess estimate of what bird they are. I have one called BirdNet, N-E-T, no promo, but it's quite good. Other apps are available. And so that is our tufted titmouse. They're very cute. To the Carolina wren. So here we have. Oh wow! So this is interesting. On the side of the card with the illustrations, we have on the top an adult northern Carolina wren, and underneath an adult Mexican Carolina wren. So I suppose they are the same species. Is that right? But with different names and appearances? Maybe I'm wrong in the word species there, but either way, these are both classed as the Carolina wren, but they have some slight differences. So, with the adult northern, we have this rufous color above. So on the top, the back of the head, the wingspan, the wing, and the tail. And then underneath, below the tail, on the sort of what you might consider butt area for the bird, we have it says bright Buffy below. Buffy is not a word I know outside of my favorite TV show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You can see on both images, directly below the tail, it's got this sort of white and black zigzagging stripes. And then for the adult northern, we have more of a light brownish yellow with darker brown on the belly to butt area. And then it says, for the adult northern, long, bold, white, quote-unquote, eyebrow, which is this. So it's a strip above and alongside its eye, going outwards, all the way, I think, down the head. A strip of white, quite bold. And I was lucky enough to see, I think, an adult northern, but I will be checking. I wasn't in Mexico. I was on the East Coast, and I was lucky enough to see a Carolina wren. 2, in fact. 2 or 3, I can't remember now. But just on one occasion. And I was so excited. Unfortunately, I didn't get any good pictures, but it was, for me, exciting. Oh, I should also say, I mean, you might be able to see these images, you might not. But on the wing of the adult northern, it does look like there are little dots and lines on the wing, very faint. But it's certainly like speckled in some way. And then you can see it's similar on the adult Mexican, but we've got some additions here. So on the adult Mexican, the white strip is there above and along the eye, down the head, but it has a blackish border. So if you ever see a Carolina wren that has the bold white strip, but it has a blackish border around it, then you'll know that it's the adult Mexican. The description also says it's mottled black and white. It looks like above the wing, sort of between the head and the wing, around that area. Maybe I should say beneath. And the adult Mexican has what this description is calling some barring on flanks. So on its sort of side underbelly, barring, which is these, I think I call them stripes. And that's the difference between the adult northern and adult Mexican. And then if we turn over, you can read about the Carolina wren. So I suppose both birds doesn't have two descriptions of their body hair, so both must be around 5.5 inches in height, length, around 7.5 for their wingspan, inches, and I think this is our smallest yet, 0.74 ounces. They are little birds. The habitat, it says, common in dense, brushy tangles within woods, often skulks around porches and gardens. Our wrens in the UK, I feel, are more elusive than that, so you're lucky. Oh, there we go, it says, more often heard than seen. And I should say as well that my first time seeing a Carolina wren in the US, I believe was my first time seeing a wren at all. That's why I was so excited. Description: a rather large and stocky wren, but still a small bird. Reddish-brown overall, with long, bold, white, quote-unquote, eyebrow. And the voice? The song is a rich, rolling chant of 3 or 4 syllable phrases. Oh my goodness, it's really hard to read these out without doing them, but I know I'm not doing them justice. So, 3 or 4 phrases of Pidaro, 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 or Tweepudo, Tweepido, Tweep. And that is the Carolina wren, adult northern and adult Mexican. Next, we have the eastern phoebe, as in the name Phoebe. Another bird that we don't have here. I don't think we have any birds named Phoebe in the UK. On the illustrations page, we have the juvenile at the top and the adult at the bottom. The juvenile must be commonly seen between June and November. And we can see it's another bird that doesn't look much different when it's a juvenile from when it's an adult. It says for the juvenile, that the bird has weak wing bars. I assume that when it gets to adulthood, these wing bars strengthen in appearance, although the card doesn't actually say that. But we can see that the juvenile has a yellow belly and that the adult doesn't really. It appears that towards its bottom it has very light shading of yellow around there, but the rest of it, there isn't any yellow. Both have a dark head, perhaps somewhat dark on the adult, and both seem to have these, what the card describes as, dusky smudge on the sides of their breast. Other than that, the birds are very similar looking in appearance, the juvenile and the adult. Looks like they've got these greyish brown bodies and tails, tops of their bodies, I should say. Very similar in appearance. It looks like the adult as well has a darker patch around its eye than the juvenile has. Let's read about it. The eastern phoebe. Its height length is 7 inches. Its wingspan is 10.5 inches. And its weight is 0.7 ounces. So it's a light one. Habitat. It is uncommon, but widespread in open woods and woodland edges. Nests almost exclusively on man-made structures, such as bridges and buildings. Forages mainly for small flying insects from low perch. May perch on open fences, rocks, branches, and the like. Description: when perched, constantly wags tail in distinctive motion, which sounds like birds here that we call wagtails. Right, I think there are a couple of different species, if I'm using that term correctly. One I know is called the pied, P-I-E-D for delta, wagtail. And if they're still, you can watch their tail. It goes like that. Maybe slower, or maybe faster, I'm not sure. But that is the motion of the bird's tail, up and down, wagging almost like a dog, but if a dog was up and down rather than side to side. Voice. Its song is a series of rough whistled phrases. See dip and see brr. I won't roll my R's. I think it would be too harsh for the microphone. The whistled phrases are usually alternated in a steady tempo. And the eastern phoebe's call is a single, clear chip. Chip. C-H-I-P for Papa. And that is the eastern phoebe. Eastern phoebe. Our next bird is the blue jay. And blue jays, I know, are monomorphic, which means that the male and the female look the same. So we have here on the illustration side of the card the juvenile through to May, August, after they fledge, which means leave the nest. and it says dark adult, dark adult. I'm not sure why. Maybe some adults are darker than others in appearance, but I am certain that the male and female blue jays are monomorphic. When I say certain, I mean almost certain. So for the juvenile, it says of the line around its chest, it says dark quote unquote necklace. And for the dark adult, it doesn't say anything else. However, it does look to me like that quote unquote necklace is bolder, thicker now. This line, but that could just be the illustration, or it could be my perception of it. You can see actually the adult and the juvenile don't look that much different in appearance. The adult appears to be slimmer than the juvenile, and it does definitely have a darker shade of blue, a deeper shade of blue. Nowhere near as deep as the purple martin, but it's got that lovely blue there. So we can see on the juvenile it's starting to form, but that crest hasn't fully formed yet, whereas we can see on the adult that it's a little pointier looking, that crest. And it has wing spots on its wings and tail, and it looks like the juvenile does too. But again, at least the way that I'm perceiving it, the adult looks to have bigger wing spots and a bigger area of white. I should say bigger white spots on its wing there, and a bigger area of white just above those two. Then the juvenile looks like it has a smaller one, but quite similar in appearance. The description, the wording isn't there. It doesn't say this on the card. But it looks to me also as if the juvenile, below its bill, up until the quote-unquote dark necklace, is white, whereas on the adult, male or female, there is some white around the eye below the bill, but there is also a deeper patch of blue than on the juvenile. The juvenile's looks white-ish, maybe starting to come through grayish blue there, but on the adult, male or female, it looks to be a deeper shade of blue just before that dark necklace around the chest. And if we turn, can read, we'll zoom in a little bit. It says, the blue jay is common and widespread in woods, feeds on a variety of insects, as well as acorns and other seeds. Description: truly unmistakable, with bright blue wings and tail, flashing white patches, a blue crest, and that dark quote-unquote necklace. Its length, height is 11 inches, its wingspan is 16 inches, and it weighs typically 3 ounces. And I will say, of the blue jay, again, I was so excited and happy the first time I saw one in the US. But they are bigger than I expected, at 11 inches. I thought they'd be smaller than that. And I've seen them a few times since then. Luckily, I'm very privileged to have done so. And it always surprises me. I don't know why. I still expect them to be smaller. Of its voice, the card says, varied. Its most common call is a shrill, harsh, descending scream of Jay. I guess that's where it gets its name. Other calls include a clear whistled to Lily, an expert mimicry of hawks. Isn't that cool? I did once watch a live stream of bird experts talking about different birds in the US, and that they said of the blue jay that it can. Did I read that as mimicry? I feel like I did. Mimicry. I don't know. It's late at night here. They were talking about its mimicry skills. So it's very cool that it can do that. And they are pretty little things. The blue jay. Next, we have the red-bellied woodpecker, all one word, woodpecker. I know that in the US, they have a lot more different woodpecker species than we do. I do find it hard to differentiate between some of them. And some of the names, I think, don't do them justice. This woodpecker, although named the red-bellied woodpecker, doesn't have a distinctive red belly. You can see on the illustration side the adult female at the top and the adult male below. Both have a red nape, which is the back of the head, as if like the back of the neck. The adult male has the red going all the way around over the top of its head, joining at the bill there, meeting the bill. But actually, we couldn't call this the red-naped woodpecker because, if you're thinking that, because I believe a lot of woodpeckers actually have red napes. We have a woodpecker here in the UK, I think it's called the Great Spotted Woodpecker. And the males have this red nape, and the females have no red on the back of their head. Whereas with the red-bellied one, the females have the red nape, and the males have red all the way around the head. We can see that it's got this barred back, so the back and the tail, the back, the wing, and the tail, and this black and white pattern, almost like tiger stripes, would be the white part, and the base color is black, it looks like. And then there is some more white on the underwing, it appears. I don't know if it's officially called an underwing, probably not. Or undertail? I don't know. But its main wing. Yeah, I think that must be the tail. I was getting confused there. Its main wing is this black and white pattern. The white stripes. And then the tail, it looks like, is more of a white with black on top. And then the belly and the breast is this sort of pale, plain pale brown. It looks to be brownish white to me. So the red-bellied woodpecker is 9.25 inches. Its wingspan is 16 inches. And its weight is 2.2 ounces. Quite a bit more than some of the ones we have. Its habitat is common in mature deciduous woods. Its description is Note, uniformly barred back, brown underparts. They're light brown though. Like I said, to me it looked brownish white. And red nape. Faint wash of red on the belly. That's where its name comes from. But it is faint, and it says rarely visible. But the bright red nape is always conspicuous. Remember, the female has just the red nape, and the male has the completely red head, back of the head. The front of the head is more of a grayish color from the looks of it, or maybe very light brown. Voice. Its call is a loud, rich, queer. I don't know how to say these words. It's Q-U-I for indigo, R for Romeo, R for Romeo, R for Romeo. Queer. Its in-flight call, so when it's flying, is a single low chug. C-H-U-G for golf. Apparently, it also has a harsh sound of chig chig. C-H-I-G for golf. Or a series of chig notes delivered slowly or rapidly. It says drum, medium speed or length. I think that might mean when they are pecking. You know, woodpeckers, they peck at wood. Drum, medium speed and length, sometimes begins with one or several separate taps. So 1 or 1, 2, 3, for example. And then maybe it gets into the tapping, the drumming, a little speedier, medium speed and length. And that is the red-bellied woodpecker. Here we have a painted bunting. On the illustrations page, we've got the adult female at the top, and we've got the significantly different adult male at the bottom. For the adult female, it's described as a bright greenish on the illustrations page, and we can see it doesn't look that bright actually, the illustration, but we can see the green on the head, the top, and all of the head, down the wing and the tail. And the wing looks to have darker, maybe darker green or almost black there on the sort of outline of the bottom half of the wing. But it looks like the underbelly of the adult female is actually more of a yellow or yellowish green. And then on the adult male, we can see it's got a dark blue head. We can see that here, the top and around, and at the sides of the head, but not directly under the bill, around the throat area. That is, it looks to be a bright orange or reddish color. And it does have this bright green back similar to the female. We can see it on the wing here. That greenish color, very similar. And it says it's got a red rump. And the rump looks to be the same color as the underbelly too, and the throat. So I guess this red or reddish orange color here. But whereas the female is all green or greenish yellow, we can definitely see that difference there with the blue head on the male. and this reddish underbelly and rump, and down to the tail there. If we turn over, its length, its height is 5.5 inches. Its wingspan is typically 8.75 inches. And its weight, it's quite light. It's very light. It's 0.54 ounces. And for the habitat, it says the painted bunting is uncommon and local in brushy lowlands with some tall trees. Habits similar to the indigo bunting, which we'll take a look at in a second, but slightly more secretive. Its description: adult male is unmistakable, with red rump and underparts, what I call the underbelly, or the belly. Other plumages, plain greenish. Our only green finch-like bird. The painted bunting's voice. Its song is a sweet, continuous warble. Quality is similar to the indigo bunting, but without the repeated phrases. So let's actually take a look now at the indigo bunting. So we can see with our indigo bunting that, like the painted bunting, it's dimorphic, which means the female and the male look different, significantly so in this case. The female on the illustration page is depicted as all brown, almost all brown, I should say. It looks like the head and the back and tail, the back and wing, are darker brown, and the underbelly is a lighter brown, the underbelly and throat. But the writing at the side says the female has a bluish tail, brackets, unlike sparrows. And the reason it says that, the reason it will say that, is because I imagine this is very easy. The indigo bunting female is very easy to confuse for sparrows. But if you look out for this bluish tail, that's how you'll tell the difference. Some sparrows, I should say. Some sparrows are this brownish color like this and have less distinguished marks than each other. Distinctive. So unlike sparrows, it's got this bluish tail. And the adult female has the bicolored bill. It looks like it's either a black or a very dark gray and a light gray. But in general, the bird is mostly brown. We'll look for this bluish tail. And then the adult male, the breeding season, again, April to September. It would be odd if it was different. The adult male is this deep blue, it looks like. I thought indigo was purplish, but perhaps it's just the illustration. It looks to be, it says bright blue, darker on head. Maybe I'm mixing up my colors and indigo is blue. Definitely the illustration is deep, deep shade of blue. And it looks like, again, the male has this bicolored bill. Darker on one side and lighter on the other. Definitely distinct with its very bright blue body. So the indigo bunting, its length is 5.5 inches. Its wingspan is 8 inches. And its weight, again, very light, 0.51 ounces. For habitat, it says common in any open brushy area including weedy fields and hedgerows, with trees nearby. It feeds on insects and seeds. For description, it says bright blue male, distinctive. Female easily confused with sparrows. Note, the female is a warm brownish color with a plain face and a bicolored bill, rounded tail with hints of blue. Voice. The indigo bunting's song is a high, sharp, urgent warble, with most phrases repeated. Titi, wee wee, zer zer. Sounds French. So the last word there is spelled Z-E, R for Romeo, R for Romeo, echo. Titi, wee wee, zer zer. Its call is a dry, sharp spick. Spick. S-P-I-K. Spick. So if we compare the indigo bunting with the painted bunting, let's have a little look. We can see a clear difference in both the adult female of painted buntings and adult female of indigo buntings. We've got this green adult female for the painted bunting and the brown adult female for the indigo bunting with those blue hints on its tail. And then the painted bunting, it does have this blue head, but it's got the green on its wing and it's got the red/orange rump and underbelly, whereas the male indigo bunting is this blue all throughout, all over his body. And a little look at the description comparison. So they are the same size, typically. 5.5 for the painted bunting and for the indigo bunting. It looks like the painted bunting has a wider wingspan, just 8.75 compared to the 8 inches for the indigo. And it looks like the painted bunting, as you'd expect with a wider wingspan, is a little bit heavier, 0.54 ounces, compared to the 0.51 of a typical indigo bunting. The painted bunting song, as a reminder, it says its quality is similar to the indigo bunting, with its titi wee wee zer zer, but without the repeated phrases. And we can remember that the painted bunting is slightly more secretive. And it looks like the indigo bunting is more common. I don't know if there are other buntings in these parts of the Americas. We'll have to see what the next lot of cards brings up and the rest. But that is the painted bunting and the indigo bunting. Next we have the Baltimore Oriole, or Oriole. I'm not sure how to say that. It's another bird that we don't have in the UK. O-R for Romeo, I-O-L for Lima, E for Echo. At the top of the illustrations page, we have the so-called drab first-year female, and at the bottom, the adult male. I don't know if later females look particularly different from the first-year female. I would think probably not, so we can see the stark contrast between the two. Essentially, they are both orange and grey to black, but the adult male is significantly more orange and significantly more black, with the black on the upper half of their body, their head, and down their back, and their breasts, well, their throat area. And then they have this black and white wing that sort of reminds me of a piano. And then the tail appears to be orange and black. And the belly and breast is, and the top of their wing is this vivid orange color. Whereas with the female, we can see that the wing is only black in a couple of spots, and it looks to be not as deep as this black in shading. And the rest of the wing is more of a grey and white. And the tail and the breast of the female is orange, but it's more of a murky orange. And then the underbelly looks like it's this whitish grey. Whereas with the adult male, it's this complete orange colour. The Baltimore Oriole, this vivid colour on the male. And then the head of the female and the throat appears to be more of a brownish grey. Light in colour, but brownish grey to me. Oh yeah, it says here. Grey-brown head and back on the female. Orange-yellow, brightest on breast on the adult female. With an orange tail. And again, the adult male is just this black and vivid orange with some white on the wing. The length, the height of the Baltimore Oriole is 8.75 inches, typically. The wingspan is 11.5, and its weight is 1.2 ounces. Of the habitat, the bird's habitat, it says, common in open, deciduous woodlands or among scattered tall trees. Forages widely for caterpillars, fruit, and nectar in low brush and trees. Funny thing about caterpillars, I've only ever seen one caterpillar in real life before, but I'm always looking on leaves for caterpillars and the underside of leaves and never see them. But the first caterpillar and first and only confirmed caterpillar sighting I've seen was of a caterpillar crossing a path, and a cyclist came by, and myself, my father, and someone else who was watching all sort of gasped and looked at each other. But the caterpillar made it. It's okay. And I was so excited to see my first caterpillar. And I've never seen one since, confirmed. I've seen one maybe in the back garden since then. But I was always amused that I saw it on a path rather than on a leaf or tree. Anyway. Description. Note. Bright orange colour. So clearly we're talking about the adult male here. Bright orange colour, white wing bars, slender bluish bill, and mostly orange tail. So with the bill, the female is actually, oh no, it does have the black and grey that the males does. But the males, I don't know if it's just the illustration. The males, again, even the bill looks to be a deeper shade of these colors. But I suppose since the description tells us it's bluish, it must just not be showing up properly. Song. A short series of clear, rich whistles. Be-doo, tootie, tootie, you. Y-E-E-W. And many variations. Sometimes with birdsong, I'm not the best at identifying birds through birdsong. Some birds have so many different variations, and I don't have musical ears. And that is the Baltimore Oriole. Next, we have the American tree sparrow, and I imagine it's called the American tree sparrow because other parts of the world have their own tree sparrow. And there are a number of different sparrows in the US, in the Americas. I think within this section of the pack of cards, I have 2 cards with sparrows on, one being this, the American tree sparrow. And what's really interesting about sparrows is that some of them, at least, have different variations in the same species, within the same species. So we can see on this card, we have the pale adult on the illustrations page, and we have the dark adult. Now they actually look very similar. It says they have a mostly rufous crown. I never know how you say that word, but it's a reddish brown, I think, crown. And both seem to have this, but perhaps on the darker adult it's a deeper shade. Both have a bicolored bill, so we can see that the bill is black and orange, which is cool. If you didn't know that bicolored bills exist, they do. Both have this strip of red going out from their eye, almost like eyeliner, but a bold strip of red. And on the dark adult, it does look to be perhaps a little longer than on the pale adult. And both have these bright white wing bars on their wings. You can see that. And the wings on both appear to be striped black with this orange base color, orange red. And both tails appear to be grey, bluish grey, as well as the bellies and the rest of the head. There's some white around the head too, it looks like, or whitish grey, more than bluish grey. But we can see that on the dark adult, the reddish orange colour beneath the wing and on and around the wing is bigger and more vivid than on the pale adult. So they are similar, but if you were to see one with more of that reddy orange colour, then you can assume that it is the dark adult variant of the American tree sparrow. If we turn over, we can read, it says, length, height, 6.25 inches, wingspan, 9.5 inches, and it's another light one. It only weighs 0.7 ounces. Its habitat, the American tree sparrow. It's common It nests in open shrubby vegetation on tundra. Open shrubby vegetation on tundra. In the winter, it is in any, it says brushy, I don't know if it's supposed to say bushy, or weedy habitat, and often near trees. Description: it's got that bicolored bill, the distinct white wing bars, and a dark spot on the center of its breast. If we look here on the illustration side, we can just about see there is no writing on this side to suggest this. There is writing, but it doesn't suggest this. But we can just about see that dark spot on the breast of both of the pale adult and the dark adult. It does look like it's more prominent in the dark adult. Voice. Its song is a very sweet, clear warble with a descending downwards trend and slightly buzzy at the end. Sweet, sweet, T, city, C, zitty, zitty, ZU, ZEW. And that is the American tree sparrow. Next, we have the pileated woodpecker. And on the illustrations page, we have just the head and breast of an adult female. And then underneath we have the full body with head of the adult male on a, what looks like a pole or a tree. I'm not sure what the card is showing us in the difference between the adult female and the adult male here. Oh, I can see actually. So it doesn't describe this. Again, as I've said elsewhere, I wish these cards were a little more descriptive. But we can see on the adult female's head, it does have this red crest on the very top of its head. However, it appears to be almost like a shark fin that's red, and then it doesn't go down the rest of the female's head. Whereas we can see on the adult male, it's got that red crest, but the red continues down over its sort of forehead area, for lack of a better word, and down to meet its, well, to meet a white strip above its bill. Oh, and then we can also see on the adult male, it's got a short but bold red stripe, sort of, well, under its eye, going lengthways, horizontally. Other than that, the heads look quite similar of both the adult female and adult male, but that's how we can remember the difference. The adult female doesn't have the red on the rest of its head, and it doesn't have this red strip below its eye, horizontal red strip. They have these long necks, and they have these white strips on their heads and on their necks. Looks like it continues on their breast as well. But then the rest of their body appears to be either dark grey or black. So it is mostly black. We can't see the underbelly, so I'm not sure. It says all black above, but it doesn't describe or show the underbelly. And they have these white strips, as I said, along the breast and neck and face, and also black strip on the face too, and the red crests, of course. So the pileated woodpecker, it's big. It's 16.5 inches. To compare to our red-bellied woodpecker, I think that was almost half the size of this one. Its habitat, it says, uncommon but widespread, sparsely distributed in mature hardwood forests. Favorite foods include carpenter ants, so it often forages low on dead trees or even on fallen logs. Description: unmistakable because it is crow-sized, so it's big, with a long neck, the red crest, an obvious white wing patch. The wing patch, we can't see it in the illustrations unless it's talking about this white strip on the breast that I mentioned. Or this maybe. Its call, the pileated woodpecker's call, is a single, loud, deep, resonant weck, W-E-K, or cook, K-U-K. Its drum, again presumably against wood, is a slow, powerful, accelerating, and trailing off at the end. It's infrequent, the drumming, no more than 2 times per minute. That really is infrequent. It says also a higher, more rapid series. I guess it's talking about the call again of cook, cook, kiki, 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 kiki. Cook, cook. Cook, cook. So just for comparison, this is our pileated woodpecker. I think it was 16.5 height-wise, length-wise. And this, oh, what was that again? 9.25. So this is them side by side. I think there are likely to be other woodpecker cards in the pack that I haven't come across yet. We'll compare more then if there are. But so this is our red-bellied, adult female, adult male, and this is our pileated, the adult female and adult male. So with these two, maybe I get confused just because I haven't really studied the differences now. Although I do think there are a couple that look the same, but we'll see. These two you can see are obviously very different heights, and very different in appearance. The pileated and the red-bellied. Red-bellied. And then we have the white-throated sparrow. And again, we have this difference in the same species. We have a white striped adult on the illustration page and a tan striped adult. And I think this is referring to the bold strip that goes from the eye to the rear of the head. It's a very bold strip. Not quite at the top of the head, but taking up a good part of the upper part of the head. On the white striped adult, it is white And on the 10 striped adult, it is a 10, a sort of light to medium brown colour. We're calling it, the card is calling it an eyebrow. Bright white eyebrow on the white striped, and a tan coloured eyebrow on the tan striped. Both have the white throat, and both appear to have a greyish bill. Perhaps it's darker grey on the white striped adult, it looks like maybe. The white striped adult has what the card is calling a yellow supraloral. Now, I don't know what that word, I didn't know what that word meant. I looked it up, and the word that came up was supercilium, and it says it's a stripe above a bird's eye going from the base of the bill towards the rear of the head. Now, we already have this white stripe on the white striped adult and tan stripe on the tan striped adult. But on the white striped adult, we also have at the forefront of the white stripe this yellow colour. So it's just around the eye to the base of the bill there. And then it's this white stripe. And then we can see that the backs of the bird and the wings of the bird and the tail of the bird look to be pretty much the same. The back and the tail are a lighter brown, maybe light medium, and the wings are a darker brown with white and black bars. And then the underbellies and side of the head of the birds are slightly different looking. The white striped adult has this bluish grey on both, and the tan striped adult has more of a brown on around the lower part of its head and underneath its wing, and then maybe a paler grey on the lower part of its belly from the looks of these illustrations. So, the white-throated sparrow, its habitat is common in brushy. I guess brushy is the word that they are meant to be going for. Earlier I suggested that perhaps the card meant bushy. Common in brushy patches in or near openings in mixed woods. Its description: a rather stocky, dark reddish-brown sparrow, usually unstreaked below and always showing contrast between mainly greyish breast and white throat. Adults range from drab, tan-striped, to bright, white-striped, regardless of sex and age. So that's cool. Whether you see a male or a female, they could be tan-striped or white-striped. I didn't read the measurements. So its height is typically 6.75 inches, with a 9-inch wingspan, and it's 0.91 ounces, so fairly light. The voice. Its song is a series of high clear whistles given in a rhythmic pattern. Su, si, dee 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 dee. And here in brackets, the card suggests that about this rhythmic pattern, people say it's Old Sam Peabody, Peabody, Peabody. Old Sam Peabody, Peabody, Peabody. So that's the white-throated sparrow. And we'll just give it a side-by-side comparison to our American tree sparrow. You can clearly see the distinctions there. The American tree sparrow, regardless of whether it's the pale adult or the dark adult, has this red on the top of its head, the bicolored beak of black and yellowy orange, the red strip like eyeliner out from its eye, and then this more reddish orangey brown on around its wing. And with the white-throated sparrow, we have, of course, this more prominent white under the throat. It doesn't have the bicolored beak. Well, actually, it kind of looks like it does because the beak looks to almost be dark gray and light gray, but definitely not as distinct as the American tree sparrow. Its body, its wings are this darker brown, and the top of its head is black with this white stripe or tan stripe. The American tree sparrow and the white-throated sparrow. Here we have the northern cardinal. Now, from what I understand, from what I have observed, it's very common for the cardinal, the northern cardinal, to be on Christmas cards in the US. Funny little anecdote. For the UK, we don't have cardinals. But on our Christmas cards, we have our robin. However, it's a European robin, the one we get here in the UK, and not the American robin. There's a difference between the two. When I was younger, I was lucky enough to spend some time in Canada, just a little bit, and I wasn't into birds as much back then. But I did know the robin, because as I say, it's on our Christmas cards, the European robin. When I saw the American robin in Canada, I said, "What bird is that?" And my partner at the time said, "That's a robin." And I said, No, that's not a robin. I know robins." Perhaps I should have saved that story for when the robin comes up, but the fact that I see these cardinals, northern cardinals, on Christmas cards reminded me. Anyway, I have seen quite a few cardinals on my US visits now. Always happy to see them because, as I said, we don't have them, and they are so brightly red. Sometimes I find with online bird pictures, they seem to enhance the colours of many birds, but I have seen cardinals with my own eyes, and I can tell you that they really are bright red. So on the illustration page, we have the adult female and the adult male, and we can see the difference. Dimorphic. Both have this long red tail, and both have a red crest. However, the male's is definitely redder, and I think it is taller. I think I've seen a cardinal male with their crest flattened down, like pointing backwards, because on this picture here, the adult females is in that position and the adult males is sticking up. I think both are capable of going up or down, but I wouldn't bet my life on that. Both have this blackish color, black around their eyes, but we can see on the male it is more prominent. So it's more around the top of the bill and under the bill, and it is bolder than on the female. The female doesn't really look to have it under their bill. certainly not to the extent that the male does. Both birds have this red-orange bill. It is a reddy orange. I remember seeing it IRL and thinking the bill is distinct from the rest of its body. But I think they could easily blend in too if you're looking from a distance. But then the female, the back of the female is more of this dull brown color. And the belly, underbelly of the female, under the wing, and the rump looks to be a whitish grey with hints of orange around the breast, orangey light brown, and some red on the wing, but a lighter, less distinct colour. Whereas with the male, we can see the redness that's on its tail and crest are a deep shade and cover the back of its head, its underbelly, its rump, and the entirety of its wing there. It is this vivid red colour. If you look at the measurements, so the northern cardinal is 8.75 inches height-wise. Its wingspan is 12 inches, and it weighs 1.6 ounces. Its habitat, it says, common in brushy habitat within or at edges of woods, often in suburban settings. It feeds on seeds, fruit, and insect larvae. Its description: the male is all red, except for its black face, and it does say here red bill. I think it's a red-orange bill. Longer-tailed than tanagus. Again, I might be saying that word wrong. Tanagus. But it's saying the northern cardinal has a longer tail than tanagus. Female has reddish wings and tail, blackish face, and red-orange bill. Well, that's interesting, it said. Red bill for the male, red-orange for the female. So maybe there is a difference there. I do think it's quite a common bird, at least where I've been in the US. But again, I love to see them. Voice. Its song is a series of high, clear, mostly slurred whistles. I don't know how to say this. W-O-I-T. White. White, white, white. Choo, 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 choo. White, white, white. Choo, 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 choo. Or Pichu, Pichu. Tweet, 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 tweet. T-I-W. I'm pronouncing that tweet. With many variations. So again, it's a bird that has different variations in its calls and whistles. White, white, white. Choo, 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 choo. And that is the northern cardinal. Next, we have a laughing gull, named after one of its calls, of course. What's interesting about this bird is on the illustrations page, we can see an adult at the top depicted in its non-breeding season from September to March, and underneath that, an adult depicted in its breeding season, March to September, and they look different. The bodies look the same. I think the bird year-round has these dark legs. It says all black wingtips on both birds, or both variations of the bird in its different seasons. Although on the On one part of the tail, there are 3 white spots. It looks like they're there both in the non-breeding season and in the breeding season. Possibly smaller in the breeding season. It's got this, it says, relatively long, drooping black bill in the non-breeding season. But we can see in the breeding season, that bill becomes a deep red or orange color. The backs of both birds, both variations of the bird in the different seasons, are this bluish grey, sort of a almost purple colour, at least on the illustration. And then the other major difference, other than the bill, black on the non-breeding and deep red or orange on the breeding, is the head of the bird. It has a black hood, basically a black face in the breeding season, and in the non-breeding season, its face is largely white, but with grey smudges around its eye and behind its eye. So that's the difference. Adult non-breeding and adult breeding. The length, the height of the bird is 16.5 inches. Its wingspan is a very impressive 40 inches. And its weight is 11 ounces. For the habitat, it says that the laughing gull is common and conspicuous, especially on sandy beaches. It is the most frequently seen gull along the southern Atlantic and Gulf Coast beaches. An avid taker of handouts, and I imagine also stealing out of your hand. Description. Now this card says it is relatively small, although the largest of the dark hooded gulls, and slender, with long wings and a long drooping bill. Note, it has a dark grey upperside blending onto black wingtips. So what I described as a bluish grey or almost purple, they're describing as dark grey. It's funny that it says it's relatively small, because compared to a lot of the other birds I've read about in this section of the pack, it's actually quite a bit bigger. But everything is relative, right? That is the laughing gull, the adult non-breeding, and adult breeding. And if there are other gulls in this pack, we'll do a side-by-side comparison. Here we have the grey catbird. Catbird. You heard that correctly. It's C-A-T. B for Bravo, I, R for Romeo, D for Delta. All one word, I believe. Catbird. And weirdly, for this card, the illustration side of the card, we have 2 illustrations that both say adult, not juvenile and adult, not adult in one time of the year and adult in another, not female adult, male adult, or vice versa. Just adult. Adult. I think possibly someone made a mistake. And that's okay. Mistakes happen. But this, as far as we know, is what the grey catbird looks like in general, I guess. Maybe both the male and the female look like this. Maybe it's monomorphic. We don't know because this card doesn't explain. But what it does say is that the adult has a blackish cap. So the part on the top of its head, as in baseball cap, where we would wear a baseball cap, that is blackish. And we can see it has these blackish legs. And this grey body. The wing, the belly, the back, the face, all grey, all this one smooth grey colour. But on its undertail, it is a rufous colour, reddish. And then the ends of the tail is blackish again. So a mainly grey bird. On the illustration page, it's almost a bluish grey. I don't know. I think I have actually seen one of these in the US and taken a photograph. Not a great one, but I can't remember how true to this bluish grey it was in person, in real life. But that's how we can identify it. It's got this greyish colour on most parts of its body, and then the black cap, the black tail, and the reddish undertail, or as the card says, rufous undertail coverts. And then on this side, the description writing side, it tells us that the grey catbird, grey spelled the American way, of course, is 8.5 inches in length and height, 11 inches wingspan, and it weighs 1.3 ounces typically. Its habitat, it says, common in brushy understory of woods, often in damp, shaded areas. Stays within brushy vegetation, foraging on the ground or in low shrubs for insects, other invertebrates, and berries. Description: the bird has overall slaty grey plumage with a blackish cap and tail distinctive. No other eastern bird is this colour. So the grey that I described as a bluish grey, they are calling a slaty grey. And for voice, the card says, grey catbird's song is a rambling, halting warble with distinctive mewing and interspersed sharp chips. 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 And that is the grey catbird. Here we ruby-throated hummingbird. And on the illustrations page, the adult female at the top and the adult male underneath. And what becomes immediately obvious is this red throat, ruby throat. We can see it's only on the male hummingbirds. Ruby-throated hummingbird. The birds have, it says, narrow wingtips. Wingtips narrow and straight. We can see, so the female, it looks to be perched, sitting, and it's got this white throat and underbelly, sides of its throat, and then green on the top of its head, its back, some of its wing, and it looks like the wing is also black, mainly with a bit of white, maybe a bit of yellowy orange in there as well. And the male is not perched. It's illustrated in a way that suggests it's mid-air. If you've ever seen a hummingbird, even on TV, I've never seen one in person, but you can see or have it narrated that they flutter in one place with very fast beating wings. And so we can't see this male's back, but we can see the top of its head has that green. And then it looks like it's got a black stripe under its eye, just above that ruby red throat. And then this belly, it's like very light green barred, it looks like. And the underneath of the wings are white. And its tail is spread. It says dark notched tail. And the tail looks to be black. I wish I could better describe the bellies, because they do look like they have these bars on them. Maybe the description on the other side will tell us a bit better. So length, hummingbirds are small little beings. Height 3.75 inches. Wingspan 4.5 inches. Weight 0.11 ounces. Very light and small. Habitat: common in wooded areas and edges of woods, especially at flowers or at hummingbird feeders. Often nests near water. I don't know how common hummingbirds are in the US, but I've yet to see one, and I would love to. We don't have them here in the UK. I say that about most of these birds, and it's true, but hummingbirds, they're fairly well known, and they're just amazing little creatures. I imagine I know there are a number of species, I forget how many, but this is the only one in this section of the pack of cards that I have right now. Description: usually the only hummingbird in the East. So if I want to see a hummingbird, which I do, then it will very likely be this hummingbird, the ruby-throated. The ruby-throated hummingbird is golden green on its upper side, usually with a green crown. The male's throat is red with a black chin Its call is a soft, husky, tiff. Tii for indigo, V. Or tipip. Tipip. Tipip for papa. Its call, when it's giving chase, I suppose. You wouldn't think of a hummingbird chasing, but it must chase after insects. Its chase call is sharp and sputtering. Male display includes high, rattling notes. High rattling notes. It doesn't sound very appealing, but hummingbirds, with how small and colourful they are, how fast their little wings beat, and their long bill, they are one that every bird lover wants to see, I think. The ruby-throated hummingbird. Here we have the wood duck, W-O-O-D for Delta, wood duck. The illustration side of the card shows us an adult female and an adult male breeding, a breeding adult male, September to June. And it may be that when the adult males aren't in breeding season, they look a lot more similar to the adult females. But we can see here, when they are in breeding season, they are very distinct. The two are very different. So the female is mostly brown, with what looks like specks or smudges of a whitish colour along its chest and sides, and I think a whitish underbelly, but its base colour is brown, its head is brown, I think its wing and tail. The description says it is greyish with pale spotted flanks. I suppose that's how they're describing what I call smudges. The female's eye appears to be black, and around the eye, lengthways horizontally, it's got this whitish teardrop shape, white around eye, and its bill appears to be a murky orange with some black, whereas the adult male in breeding season, I imagine this is a lot of people's favorite duck to see. It says the adult male has a round head with drooping crest and a bright, not about the crest, but the adult male also has bright white bridle. And we can see these different colors here. So the crest that it droops down from its head, not sticks up like in the cardinal. This crest droops downwards and appears to be mainly green. The eye, compared to the female, we said the female's is black. The eye looks like it's orange or red. Not the pupil, but the actual iris of the eye. The bill is a much more vivid orange. Around the eye and throat appears to be black, but it's got this white bridle, I'm not sure which, which is basically bold lines around the neck, and then an offshoot of a bold line towards its eye. And then the rest of its neck and breast appear to be maybe that rufous color. It's got green and blue on its wing. It's got a big section of yellow on what looks like its side, and another of these offshoots of white as well. So it really is distinct from the female, at least when it's breeding season, from September to June. The wood duck. Its length is 18.5 inches. Its wingspan is 30 inches, 30, and its weight is typically 1.3 pounds. Of its habitat, the card says that it is uncommon on sheltered ponds, rivers, swamps, or wherever there is standing water among trees, which makes sense for its name, the wood duck. It nests in tree cavities or in boxes and feeds mainly on acorns and other seeds. Description: mostly dark with contrasting white belly. Breeding male is distinctive. Both sexes have a rather small bill, the drooping crest, and a long, broad tail, which is usually raised when they are swimming. Voice: when flushed, the female gives a penetrating, squealed ooeek, ooeek. Oh, oh. E for echo, E for echo. K. Ooeek. And the male gives a high, thin chweep, chweep. J, E for echo. W, E, E, E. P for papa. And that is the wood duck. I'd really like to see the wood duck. Both very pretty, although I admit the adult male in breeding season is obviously gorgeous with the different colours there. Next we have the green heron. If I'm not mistaken, I have been lucky enough to see a heron in the US, but I don't think it was the green heron. The part that I may be mistaken about is I think it might have been what is called a little blue heron, which is a very cute name. But let's take a look at the green heron. So the illustrations page has the juvenile at the top and the adult underneath. The juvenile is stretching its neck out like herons can do. On the juvenile, we have yellow legs, and we have a slight crest. On the adult, we have orange legs, and it looks like that crest may have gone down to be flatter there. But the tops of both the heads are this dark color, black. They They both have this long, pointy bill, but the juvenile's looks to be orange in color, and the adult's is darker, significantly darker. I'm not sure if it's black or dark grey, or just a much darker orange there, and my eyes aren't picking up the colour properly. The juvenile's body is mostly different shades of brown. The back looks to be a darker brown, and the wing is speckled with white streaks there. And then the neck, the very long neck, and side of the face is maybe chestnut brown, again streaked with white. Whereas on the adult male, there aren't really those streaks on the body, not on the side of the head, maybe a little bit on the chest it looks like. It's hard to see sideways, and not on the underbelly. And the brown has become this, it's described as a dark rufous colour, more of a smooth, deeper reddish brown rather than brown. And it looks like the wing is a bluish green colour. But again, to really distinguish, we've got the yellow bill and yellow legs on the juvenile, and this darker bill and orange legs on the adult. And the adult is less streaky and a deeper reddy brown there. The green heron's height is 18 inches. Its wingspan is typically 26 inches. And its weight is 7 ounces. Of its habitat, the card says that it is uncommon along edges of marshy or wooded streams and ponds, where it crouches in shadows, waiting for fish to swim by. It nests and roosts singly in trees. Its description says that the green heron is small and very dark overall, without contrasting markings. Note, it is a stocky shape. Stocky. It has short, broad wings and short legs, like my girlfriend. Short legs. I am not describing her as stocky, nor does she have wings that I know about. Voice. It has an explosive, sharp skew. That is the green heron. Here we have the rose-breasted grosbeak. The last is all one word. Grosbeak. K. Grosbeak. We can see that the name is taken from the male, because on the illustrations page we have an adult female non-breeding, August to March, and an adult male breeding, what they look like in breeding season, March to August. We can see how different the two birds look. So, other than the male having this red triangle on their breast, rose-colored triangle, red rose, the male has an all-black head, black and white wing. It's got a white rump, and it looks like it has a light brown, some light brown barring under the wing, on the side of its body, I mean, not on the underwing. But if it were to lift its wing in flight, then on the side of its body. The female, on the other hand, adult female non-breeding, it doesn't have this black head, it doesn't have this red breast, it doesn't have black wing or back, and we can see that it's got a lot more of this streak. It says coarse streaks. Coarse streaks continue across breast. So it's this sort of light brown base color on its breast and on its underbelly there, and on the side around its neck, a light brown base and then darker brown streaks on top. Its wing and its back are this darker brown with white wing markings. White wing markings. It has a boldly striped head, so it looks like it's got a blackish tap. But then around its eye, underneath, is this darker brown that's on the wing, and then a white and brownish strip from the base of its bill all across its head towards the rear of its head. And it also has it says pale bill. So to me it looks to be a very pale pinkish color, its bill, but I'm not too sure. Whereas the male appears to have this whitish grey bill. Greyish white. So quite different looking, the adult female and adult male, non-breeding and breeding. The bird's height is typically 8 inches in length. Its wingspan is typically 12.5 inches, and it weighs around 1.6 ounces. Habitat. The bird is common in mature deciduous forests. It feeds on insects, fruit, and seeds. Description: it is black, white, and red, the adult male, and the card says that it is unmistakable. The female's boldly striped head pattern recalls the smaller purple finch, but note, for the rose-breasted grosbeak, it has the white wing markings and a very large bill. Voice. Its song is a warble of whistled robin like phrases with slow and steady pace and a slightly husky quality. Its call is a sharp, squeaky I-I-K, I for indigo, I for indigo, K for kilo. I don't know how to say that. But the card says that it sounds like sneakers on a gym floor. I-I-K. Okay, I can imagine now. Sneakers on a gym floor. Yep,